On December 3, 2025, a man drove his Camry into my shop with tears forming in his eyes. Not from pain, from confusion. The dealer had just told him his engine was toast. Metal shavings in the oil. Catastrophic internal damage. The quote was $8,400 for a new engine. The car had barely crossed 87,000 miles. He had done every oil change on time. He had followed the maintenance schedule printed right there in the owner's manual, and that is exactly why his engine failed. Today, I am exposing the 5 critical maintenance mistakes that are silently destroying Toyota engines across the country. Mistakes that Toyota owners make every single day because they trust advice that sounds reasonable but leads straight to disaster. These are not obvious errors. They are invisible killers hiding behind manufacturer recommendations and dealer advice. By the time most drivers realize what went wrong, the damage is already done. I have been turning wrenches for over 2 decades. I have seen Toyotas with 400,000 miles still running strong. I have seen others grenaded before 100,000 miles. The difference is almost never the car itself. It is what the owner did or did not do during the first 100,000 miles that determines whether that engine becomes a legend or a liability. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Toyota builds some of the most reliable vehicles on the planet. That reputation is earned. But reliability is not immunity. Modern Toyotas demand specific fluids, specific intervals, and specific procedures that older vehicles never required. When owners ignore these invisible rules, they pay a price that seems wildly disproportionate to the mistake. That Camry owner followed the book. He changed his oil every 10,000 miles, exactly as Toyota recommended. He used the dealership for service. He trusted the system, and the system failed him because it did not account for how he actually drove his car. Short trips, cold starts, stop-and-go traffic, city driving without highway runs. His engine never got hot enough long enough to burn off the fuel dilution contaminating his oil. By the time the damage showed up, his engine bearings were already compromised. This is not a design flaw, it is a communication failure. And it happens every day to owners who think they are doing everything right. In this video, I am going to walk you through the 5 biggest maintenance mistakes I see Toyota owners make repeatedly. These are patterns I witness weekly in my shop. By the end, you will know exactly what to watch for, what to change, and how to avoid becoming another cautionary tale. Your Toyota was built to last. Whether it actually does is entirely up to what you do next. The first mistake is the silent killer, the one that destroys more Toyota engines than any other. And it sounds so reasonable that almost nobody questions it, trusting the 10,000-mile oil change interval. Toyota recommends oil changes every 10,000 miles or 12 months for most of their modern vehicles. The owner's manual says it. The dealer confirms it. The maintenance minder on the dashboard agrees. So drivers follow the guidance and assume their engine is protected. Here is what they do not tell you. That interval was developed under ideal conditions: highway driving, fully warmed engines, moderate climates, long trips where the oil reaches operating temperature and stays there. Under those conditions, modern synthetic oil can protect an engine for 10,000 miles. But most drivers do not live in that ideal world. They commute 15 minutes to work. They run errands across town. They let the car sit for days between drives. They start the engine cold, drive a few miles, then shut it off before the oil ever gets hot enough to burn off moisture and fuel contamination. Every cold start dumps unburned fuel into the crankcase. That fuel dilutes the oil. Over time, the viscosity drops. The protective film gets thinner. Metal touches metal in places it never should. I have pulled dipsticks on Toyotas with 7,000 miles on the oil that looked like used motor oil from a lawnmower. Dark, thin, contaminated. The owner thought they had 3,000 more miles to go. The engine was already wearing faster than it should. Here is the fix. If you drive mostly short trips, city driving, or in cold climate conditions, cut that interval in half. Change your oil every 5,000 miles or every 6 months, whichever comes first. Yes, it contradicts what Toyota officially recommends, but oil analysis after oil analysis confirms the same thing. Under real-world severe service conditions, which most drivers experience without realizing it, 10,000 miles is simply too long. The second mistake catches owners completely off guard, using the wrong coolant. Coolant is coolant, right? Green, pink, orange, it all does the same thing. Just grab whatever is on sale and top it off. That thinking has destroyed more Toyota cooling systems than I can count. Toyota uses a very specific coolant formulation called Super Long Life Coolant. It is pink. It uses hybrid organic acid technology with a specific phosphate package designed to protect the aluminum components in Toyota cooling systems. This coolant is engineered to work with Toyota's specific metallurgy, water pump designs, and gasket materials. When owners mix in green conventional coolant or orange Dex Cool or Universal all makes all models coolant from the parts store, they create chemical reactions that the system was never designed to handle. Different corrosion inhibitors fight each other. The coolant can gel, restricting flow through the radiator and heater core. Electrolysis begins eating away at aluminum components from the inside. Water pump seals degrade faster. I have seen radiators clogged solid with gel from mixed coolants. I have seen water pumps fail at 60,000 miles because the wrong coolant attacked the seal material. I have seen cylinder heads warped from overheating caused by restricted coolant flow that the temperature gauge never caught until it was too late. The worst part is how slowly this damage accumulates. An owner tops off with the wrong coolant, nothing immediately happens. The car runs fine. They top off again 6 months later, still fine. 2 years go by. Then the water pump starts leaking, then the heater stops working, then the head gasket fails. And nobody connects it back to that bottle of universal coolant. Here is the rule. Use Toyota's Super Long Life Coolant, or an equivalent that specifically matches Toyota's specification. Never mix formulations. That $15 bottle of universal coolant can easily lead to $2,000 in repairs when the system finally gives up. The third mistake might be the most dangerous lie in the automotive industry. Ignoring transmission fluid because Toyota says it is lifetime. Lifetime fluid. The phrase sounds like a promise. It is actually a trap. Toyota's world standard transmission fluid, called ATFWS, was marketed as a lifetime fill when it was introduced. The maintenance schedule for many Toyota models does not list transmission fluid changes under normal driving conditions. Dealers often tell owners the fluid never needs to be touched. Owners believe them and drive 150,000 miles without ever thinking about what is happening inside that transmission. Here is the reality. Lifetime means the life of the warranty, not the life of the vehicle. That fluid does degrade. It accumulates clutch material. It loses its friction modifiers. Transmissions fail when the fluid gets too contaminated to protect internal components. I have drained transmission fluid from Toyotas at 80,000 miles that came out black as coffee. The owner had no idea anything was wrong. The transmission still shifted, but the damage was already accumulating. Worn valve bodies, degraded clutches, components running hotter than they should because the fluid was no longer dissipating heat properly. Technicians who specialize in Toyota transmissions, the ones who rebuild them for a living, universally recommend a drain and fill service every 60,000 miles under normal conditions. If you tow, if you drive in heavy traffic, if you live in extreme temperatures, that interval should drop to 30,000 miles. The fix is simple but critical. Drain and fill your transmission fluid every 60,000 miles, regardless of what the maintenance schedule says. Use genuine Toyota ATFWS, or a fluid that explicitly meets Toyota's specification. Do not use generic multi-vehicle ATF. A simple drain and fill removes about a third of the old fluid each time. Do it 2 or 3 times over 500 miles if you want cleaner fluid. That transmission was designed to last 300,000 miles. Whether it does depends entirely on whether you maintain the fluid that makes everything work. The fourth mistake affects every Toyota built after 2008 with a 4-cylinder or V6 engine: neglecting direct injection carbon buildup. If your Toyota uses gasoline direct injection, and most newer ones do, there is a hidden problem accumulating inside your engine right now. This technology delivers incredible fuel efficiency and power, but it also creates a maintenance nightmare that most owners have never heard of. In older port injection engines, fuel was sprayed onto the back of the intake valves on every cycle. That fuel acted like a solvent, washing away carbon deposits before they could accumulate. The valves stayed clean. Direct injection changed everything. Fuel is now sprayed directly into the combustion chamber, bypassing the intake valves entirely. The valves never get washed with fuel. Meanwhile, oil vapors from the crankcase ventilation system coat those same valves with residue. Over time, that residue bakes into hard carbon deposits. The intake ports narrow, airflow becomes turbulent, and the engine starts losing efficiency. The symptoms are subtle at first: a slight drop in fuel economy, a small hesitation on cold starts, and a roughness at idle that was not there before. By the time owners notice something is genuinely wrong, the carbon buildup can be severe enough to cause misfires and reduced power. Toyota addressed this in some engines by adding a secondary port injection system called D4S. But many engines are pure direct injection, and they will accumulate carbon whether you want them to or not. The fix is walnut blasting. A technician removes the intake manifold and blasts crushed walnut shells at the intake valves under pressure. The shells are hard enough to remove carbon, but soft enough not to damage metal. The debris is vacuumed out, and the valves return to factory condition. Most shops recommend walnut blasting every 60,000 to 80,000 miles on pure direct injection engines. The service typically costs $400 to $700. Compared to living with poor performance and risking stuck valves, it is one of the best investments a gasoline direct injection owner can make. The fifth mistake sounds so basic that most owners dismiss it entirely: skipping air filter inspection and replacement. An air filter costs $25. It takes 5 minutes to check. How much damage could it really cause? More than you would ever expect. Your engine needs clean air to run efficiently. The air filter is the only barrier between the atmosphere and the precision components inside that engine. Every speck of dust that gets past the filter becomes an abrasive particle inside the cylinders. Over time, those particles score cylinder walls, wear piston rings, and contaminate oil faster than the filter can remove them. A clogged filter creates different problems. The engine has to work harder to pull air through restricted media. Fuel economy drops. The engine runs richer than it should because the engine control unit is compensating for reduced airflow. Carbon deposits accumulate faster. The mass airflow sensor gets contaminated with oil pulled through the dirty filter. Suddenly, a $25 filter problem becomes a $300 mass airflow sensor replacement. Toyota recommends inspecting the air filter every 15,000 miles and replacing it every 30,000 miles under normal conditions. But I see owners go 60,000 miles without ever looking at their air filter. By the time I pull it out, it looks like a vacuum cleaner bag. The inspection takes 30 seconds. Pop the clips on the airbox lid. Look at the filter. If you see dirt embedded in the pleats, if the paper looks dark instead of white, replace it. Do not try to save money by blowing it out with compressed air. Paper filters are not designed for cleaning. The driver who walked into my shop with the destroyed Camry engine made one mistake. He trusted that following the official recommendations would be enough. He did not know that his driving pattern required different maintenance. By the time symptoms appeared, the damage was catastrophic. Your Toyota is not invincible. It is precision machinery that rewards attention and punishes neglect. The difference between a car that lasts a decade and one that becomes a money pit is often nothing more than understanding these 5 critical mistakes and choosing not to make them. Change your oil more frequently if you drive short trips. Use the correct coolant and never mix formulations. Service your transmission fluid even when the manual says it is lifetime. Address carbon buildup before it becomes a performance problem. Check your air filter every time you change the oil. None of this is expensive. None of this is complicated. But together, these habits separate the Toyota owners who brag about their mileage from the ones who complain about their repair bills. If this changed how you think about maintaining your Toyota, hit like so more owners see it. Subscribe if you want weekly breakdowns that protect your vehicle instead of draining your wallet. If you have a Toyota maintenance tip that saved you from disaster, drop it in the comments. The most expensive repair is the one you never saw coming. Now you see it. What you do next is entirely up to you.